So today I'm back to skating and back to my rock that I sat on in the fall every time I did any of these videos. Um, there's an adjacent property to the school, and there's this little kid out there. Sometimes he's over here on his four-wheeler, well, sport bike thing, whatever. And today he's got this gun that he's shooting over in the field, and I was kind of watching him. It's like every time I was skating in the direction that he was that was anywhere near him, he would drop it down so it was pointing at the ground. But it started this whole tangent in my head, and I was thinking about, obviously a good thing that he's pointing it to the ground when anybody's coming close or whatever, but I started thinking about my time in basic training. And the first thing that came to mind was this. We were doing some night shooting. So we had the night vision goggles and all that fun stuff, and we had barely done anything with them. The day, I think, before we actually went to the range was the first time we got introduced to them. And then there was a big ordeal because somebody took off with a set and ended up with them in his locker, and it was this big ordeal. But I was toward the end of the group of people when we were having the opportunity to learn how to use these things. So I didn't really get to learn. I had somebody that I was next to that I tried to ask real quick, and then I was trying to approach the drill sergeant, and then got cut off from that, and it was just a big thing. But the biggest issue, as I'm thinking about it, was the fact that it was one of those things, just I didn't get to learn properly how to use these things because I couldn't speak up when I needed to. So I hoped for the best and hoped that before it was my turn on the range, I would be able to speak to somebody about this. And I approached one of the drill sergeants before I went out to try to explain that I hadn't been properly trained on this stuff, and she got pissed that I was anywhere near her, and just kind of blew it off. It's like, you know what, okay, fine. Whatever, I know where downrange is. So I just I listened to what was going on around me and would try to fire as quickly as I could anytime I heard other people shooting. And it was this big awful thing. But at the end of it, same drill sergeant comes flying over to me and gets up in my face and, "What the fuck were you shooting at?" It's like, I just looked at her and said, "I don't know. These weren't working for me, and I couldn't get anybody to help me before it was time to go out there." And she I think she realized that was why I had approached her and why there had been any kind of issue. But yeah, that all came from one of those times that I was afraid to speak up. But then that got me thinking about how my experience in basic training was not real fabulous. And I realize now that the sole purpose for me having any kind of military experience was so I could come to realize that I pick up other people's energy. Because I went in to basic training at 28, and there was a group of us that were kind of older. I think there's a 26-year-old, 30-year-old, 32-year-old, and then there's one lady that was 40. So we had our little group. But there was this one day, me and one of the people I was battle buddies with got approached by a drill sergeant, and she asked if we would um, battle buddy this other girl. She was the youngest one in the whole company, I think. She was 17. She was in the middle of her senior year, and she was able to sit out on enough of the school year to go to basic training, but then she had to go. That what her plan was, as soon as basic training was over, she was going back to finish out her high school career. And we got asked to accompany her because she had to go in front of the cadre for something. Didn't get any more details, just that. And when we were in there, of course, it was fine until the cadre came in, and like all at once, I just felt like all this rage, sorrow, just all these big feelings just hit me really hard, and like to the point where I had a hard time standing up at attention like I was supposed to be doing. It took everything in me to keep from hitting my knees when I got hit with all these emotions all at once. And then the whole reason she had to go in front of them was to talk to them about having been sexually assaulted by one of the drill sergeants. And it really sucked, obviously. But aside from, the fact that this girl had gotten assaulted, the drill sergeant that had done it had been like one of everybody's favorites, because he was just, the one that was lightening the mood anytime, all the other drill sergeants were the heavy hitters, and he was the little comic relief. So it was one of those things that's like, well, that kind of sucks, but I mean, he absolutely deserved to get demoted from that and all that. But the entire rest of basic training, it's like there was a lot of stuff. Like, I knew I was supposed to be there. Like, I knew without a doubt, like, that the whole, before I went into it, everything just kept pushing me in the direction, like, yes, this is where you're going, this is a good thing, this is what you're supposed to do. And then when I ended up experiencing these feelings, it was weird, because like the entire basic training after that, it's just like I hated everybody, and then it's like, I hate you guys, I'm fucking ready to go home, why am I here? And it was really intense. And then I remember I was talking to my mom about it when I got back home afterwards, and it was like it all just dissipated, and it's like, so it kind of feels like I was picking up somebody's energy that wasn't even mine to deal with in the first place, and that now that I'm away from it, it's just gone. And I remember I got up to walk into the bathroom, it's like, well, that's kind of mystical. What does that even mean, if I believe that this is something that is possible? Like, before then, it had never occurred to me that something like that would be possible. So that was my experience finding out I was an empath. The whole reason I went into the military was to discover that. Yeah, so it was kind of, I don't know, when I went into basic training, my entire goal was to stay below the radar. And that did not work. And I did not know why, but for whatever reason, it's like the more I tried to stay under the radar, the more it drew the drill sergeant's attention to me. It's like, fuck, I can't win for losing. So, I remember, I'd be standing in line at the chow hall and trying to just have a blank look on my face and try not to do anything stupid, focus, and not think about anything. And, I'd have these drill sergeants hone in on me. And it was one day, one of the female drill sergeants for one of the other platoons in the company, she was like, "Why'd your face look like that, Jones? You gonna cry? You look like you're gonna cry, Jones. You gonna cry?" And it's just like, oh shit. It's like, no. It's like I wasn't going to before he started looking at me, and now I kind of want to. But yeah, another thing, when we first got our rifles, okay, mind you, I had never in my life handled any kind of weapon, been around one, anything. Like, I knew my dad had a gun somewhere. I didn't know what it was, and I knew it was taken apart. That was the extent of it. And I never had any interest. So then I go to basic training and have to learn. And, the first night we have them, we're sitting in this room with the entire company and going through taking it apart and putting it back together, learning what everything is and how it works. And one of the drill sergeants for my platoon, she was like this little viper. And she would hone in, and she was ready to strike. And all at once, I felt her eyes on me, and it's like, oh no, I don't know what's happening, but this is getting ready to be bad. And I somehow managed to put this stupid thing together backwards. Oh, and everybody had fun with that one. She called attention to it in front of the entire company. One of the other drill sergeants for our platoon took a picture of me holding this stupid thing as it's all fucked up. And he liked to do that. He would find dumb things that happened for social media. I never heard about that one hitting social media, but it would be surprising if it did not. But it was one of those nice, humiliating moments in front of a big group of people. Otherwise, that drill sergeant, he was funny. He reminded me of my brother in a lot of ways. So, like, especially when I saw him joking around with the other drill sergeants, at any point, because they'd come get in our faces and be all intimidating, and then they turn around and go off to the side where they were laughing and joking with each other. It's like, so yeah, they're scary, but it's kind of an act too. And I was just kind of taking in all that information. But yeah, finding out I was an empath, that was how I found that out. And it still didn't really register, I think, that was even a thing that had been ongoing in my life. It's like this random experience in basic training. It was just, just something to force me to realize that was what was going on. But otherwise, like, my life, yeah, I hadn't like, it was kind of a thought off in the back of my mind somewhere, but I hadn't hugely made that connection. And see, after I got out of basic training and I went to my AIT, I got back home in January of 2012. It was like 3 days after my grandma died. See, 2012. It's also when I met and married my ex, and then the following year, May 2013, is when I got my traumatic brain injury, which made a lot of that worse. Like, yeah. I had this one day, I'd set a bill on the counter that I was going to pay. It was a light bill. And then completely forgot anything else about it. I thought I had handled it until we come home one night and it's like pouring down rain and we have no power. And my first thought was that the power went out. So I was talking to my husband at the time. It's like, so I think the power's out. And then I got to look and it's like, nope, everybody else has lights. It's like, oh shit. And then I realized that that bill had gotten shoved under some other paperwork and never got paid. So that started a whole bunch of other things. The basic training, especially that night vision thing. It's one of those big red flag moments on, hey, you're not speaking up for yourself, and it just happened to come to me while I was skating around out here, because it was just a line of things that came to mind after I saw that kid with the little toy gun over there. But going along with that, after I got the traumatic brain injury, then that got worse, because then I always second guessed myself, like, even more than I had before. And it was a big hot mess. And I've been kind of realizing, there's a butterfly down here watching me now. You know what? I'm gonna let you see it. If I can. Of course, he took off his jerk. Anyway, so I have been realizing that, past, he's over there now. Especially since I got divorced, and more particular, started to try to actually work on the healing that really amped up back in the fall. I'm just realizing how connected all this stuff is, and how far it did go back and how deep it does go. It's like, I keep having these, either I'll pull a card that talks about it, or I'll watch a tarot video where somebody will say, stop living in the past or whatever. It's like, I feel like I'm not living there. I feel like I'm trying to process through it. And this is just part of my processing, so I can release it, get it out of my system. Because, I knew and have known that I didn't stand up for myself. And it has been really weird coming into just finally being able to do that, or forcing myself to do that at times. But like with family, like I am starting to. And I don't know, just I guess realizing how deep this whole thing, or everything, goes, and how tightly connected everything is kind of amazing. But yeah, I don't think I have anything else to share at this moment, so I'm going to go finish my last 1.5 miles of my skate and then go back home and call it a day. So until the next time, and always, if you made it this far, I appreciate you. So see you later. Bye.